Monique, great to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Monique, could you tell us something more about what you do?
Sure.
And who you are, of course.
Absolutely. My name is Monique Valcour, and I am a coach. I'm a management academic, and I work with a variety of organizations and with individual clients to help people really experience work in a very engaging and fulfilling way.
Yeah.
I try and bring together people and organizations to support sustainable careers so they can really perform and thrive and create great value for their companies.
That sounds great. Well, today you discussed about the relationship between engagement and the performance of organizations. Could you tell us something more on how we could find the key for all managers to understand the importance of engagement?
Sure. Yeah, so engagement is the psychological state that lies in between what you're trying to do as a manager and the way that people are performing. So it's not as though it's a straight pipe. Everything that an employee experiences at work is going to affect their motivational state and their capacity to perform. And so an employee who is engaged is somebody who has a high level of energy, who feels involved with and committed to their work, and who feels capable to take on challenges, who's able to adapt and to be resilient. And so it's about having the resources that you need and the attitude to really perform at your peak.
Okay, so we see a lot of traditional businesses, traditional leadership styles. How can we make it clear for them that finding a way to unlock this engagement is also the key to their future organization?
Right. I think that an awful lot of managers are operating from a level of what they believe about management that might come more from what they read, what they've heard, what they kind of common management conceptions, as opposed to their own deep experience of doing work and having it feel very meaningful and being really motivated. Mm-hmm. So I think it's important to facilitate experiences for managers, whether it's through coaching or through great engaging workshops, for them to really connect with their own sources of motivation and to be able to work with that and to do that same thing for their employees. It needs to become something that's much more tangible and less classroom-based.
Yeah. So when talking about classroom-based, do you see like a new, let's call it, generation of type of managers that is more looking for a way to be deeply connected with their peers?
I think that that is something that we're seeing a lot. For example, in millennial employees, a much more openly expressed, if not an entirely new, desire for having a sense of purpose, having a sense of meaning in work. However, it's not something that they can automatically apply. Just because you want that yourself doesn't mean that you know how to facilitate that in the workplace. So I think that the companies who are really doing this best are investing a lot of energy and attention and resources into developing and supporting a humanistic style of management. It's not something that people can automatically extract from their education or from their own experience.
Yeah. So when discussing this, my question is this actually a trend, or is this just the normal thing of things?
I think in some respects it's a trend. It certainly is influenced by what's happening in the external labor market.
Okay.
I think that's one of the major drivers, in fact, of employment practices, is that if you're in a labor market where people don't have many options, where there is a tradition of people just sort of putting up with situations at work and not leaving, there's less of an incentive to do this. Mm-hmm. But given the fact that our employment relationships have evolved to the point where we have people who are very loosely attached to organizations, that there's not a real sense of organizations committing to employees on a long-term basis, and similar from the employees' side, that there's much more need to pull, to provide a type of work environment that's really engaging and that does help people to experience meaning. So I think it's partly to do with the evolution of employment relationships, partly to do with the external labor market.
That's an interesting question again. I think that I think it's going to be an interesting question. There are like a two-sided opinion about contingent workers. Mm-hmm. do you see the possibility that it will take over the labor market? Like contingent work, will it ever be something that is, and I'm talking about like in 50 years, will it rise to 80% of the working population? Or do you rather think, no, I think a few more percentages. I think in the States it's 31% of the people is contingent worker. What's your opinion on that?
I don't ever envision contingent work really taking over the labor market because of the fact that certain industries and certain organizations have such a need for human capital that is specific to that organization. Think about an organization, for example, that has a lot of proprietary processes or technology that people need to be there for a while to really understand. I think that the danger of going too far into a contingent workforce is that you lose that essential core knowledge that really supports value creation in that organization. There's been, again, I mentioned earlier that there's sort of a pendulum of different approaches to HR and to performance management. It's similar with the degree to which an organization keeps an internal workforce versus externalizing. So right now we're in an era where there's a kind of a small core of permanent workforce and then a large buffer around the exterior of contingent workers who can easily contract and expand as demand in your marketplace.
An elastic pool.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it sounds interesting. Monique, really thanks for coming over to our event, and I hope you enjoyed the city of Ghent as well this evening. So,
It's my
thank
pleasure.
you.
Thank you very much.